Thanks for joining us, everyone. This is the Travel Collective, and today's topic on our video is questions to ask your tour provider. A lot of times you see those top 10 lists on game shows and stuff, but I'm sure we could come up with 10 questions. So I'm going to go around and have each person introduce themselves and share what is your one question you ask when you're looking at joining or taking a tour. So I'm going to start with Yetunde.
So hello, everybody. I'm Yetunde. I'm the owner of a culinary tour company called Let's Eat the World. And we do tours in France and Spain at the moment. And usually if I'm going on a tour, it's usually food related, of course. And so the question that I ask is, like, I guess I ask, what's the itinerary exactly? I want to know what are we going to discover in the tour?
Good. Discover. I love that word.
Oh, I love that. Great. Barb?
I'm Barb. I'm a very satisfied client of April and going back to Alaska with her in September. And I remember when you and I were first talking, I asked you about the COVID regulations. I just read an article while we were on break about a lot of people in China that got stuck. They were just traveling from one place in China to another, but they had shutdowns, and so they got stuck for weeks in places. So that's what I would want to know.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It doesn't have to say COVID, but just
No,
what kind of
right,
restrictions or whatever.
right, or health concerns, of course. No, that's
For
excellent.
the location that you're going, right?
Right,
Yes.
yeah. Cindy.
I was talking earlier about the size of the trip, and I think that's really important to me because I want to go on a trip where I'm actually going to meet and get to know the people that I'm traveling with. And also that I get a little bit, more personal attention. So I look at groups that are definitely under the 20 number, but somewhere in that range. And it will kind of depend on what it is and how long it is. If it's a day trip, I feel a little more comfortable with a lot. But again, depends on what you're doing. If you're doing something hands-on, I want a smaller group so I know I'm getting attention and I can learn and connect. But I think the size of the group and what they limit it to is important to so you get a better feel for what kind of experience you're going to have.
Yeah, I think I'd have to kind of go with that too. I'm always concerned with if it's a day tour, but if I'm going to spend multi-days with someone, how big is the group? How many people? Because it does impact everyone's experience. If it's a smaller group, more likely if it's based on an interest that I have, if I'm doing a photography tour, I want a smaller group so there's more time to interact or spend at a particular stop. So I kind of agree. So we'll go around again and share another item that you asked. Barb?
Oh, we can't hear you.
Oh, wait. Somehow
can't
she
hear
got
Barb.
muted.
No, she's not muted.
Oh.
Try to talk again, Barb.
I said, give me a minute to think. I thought you were going to somebody else first.
Oh, that's okay.
Somebody else.
All right.
Oh, I thought of something.
Uh-huh.
What possibilities are there for somebody who doesn't necessarily want to do what's on the schedule to veer off and do something they're more interested in? How much flexibility is in the trip?
Excellent.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
And where are those flexibilities? What is required that you do and what? Yeah, very good question.
Oh, that's an excellent question. I love that. Yetunde.
I ask what's included I would ask what's included in the price. I mean, it kind of goes with the itinerary a bit, if it's not really clear, sometimes if I have to hunt and peck on the site to see what's happening for the price, and I'm like, what are we doing exactly? So I know what my value for money is exactly. So it is basically wanting to see a program. Is there a sample program, even if it's not exactly what we're going to do on that particular trip, just to give me an idea and get me dreaming about the experience.
And I asked that question a little different, which is, what do I need to bring? What do I need to bring extra money for? So it's another way of looking at it, because it's like, well, what's included is one question, but what's not included? It's like,
Yeah.
I'm going on a tour, they might say, well, you'll need pocket money, or some of your meals aren't included, or maybe tips aren't included, or whatever those things are, so that I know how much cash or how much I need to have on hand after I paid for my tour.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good one. I often ask, like, who is the trip for? I think that's coming up more and more. I mean, some tours are, unfortunately, I'm no longer 20, so I don't want to like be hanging off the chandeliers after hours and partying. And so I kind of want to know, is it geared, and how fast paced is it? Sometimes I'm taking a trip that isn't geared specifically to photography. So again, depending on how fast it is, I would be holding people up, or I might be at the back of the group. I'd rather know from the get-go, like, who it's kind of targeted for.
Right.
Yeah.
How active it is. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Or if I'm going to be needing to, man a whitewater raft and wear a helmet and know how to swim, I got to know that.
Well, see, that one's an interesting question, because it kind of came up in one of the tours we did. I mean, our tour is open to everybody, and it really is, because our group size is so small.
Right.
Yeah.
We can deal with a lot of things that you wouldn't be able to deal with in a larger group. So I had a grandmother who's coming with her granddaughter. And she was like, oh, it looks like, most of your participants are older. Do you think that it would be okay for my 18-year-old granddaughter to come? And I had to think about it. And I said, well, yes. I don't know your granddaughter, so it would be hard to say, would she be okay hanging out with people who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s? I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's an important question to ask. And I thought it was interesting. And I said, listen, I mean, we can talk live if you want, and see. I said, I explained it to her. I was very honest with her. I said, for the most part, we've had older people. Occasionally, I've had much younger people, and everything was fine. Again, it helps that the group is so small that you can do that. And I said, well, I mean, you can decide. She should decide for herself whether she thinks this is a tour that works. So.
Right. And it's kind of what you said, like, what is the focus? What are we discovering? What are we doing?
Yeah.
That kind of question, because what you're discovering could matter no matter how old you are. Like, if you're genuinely interested in that topic, you don't care if it's all young people or all older people. Like, if you don't mix, as long as we all share an interest in the topic, it still can be really, really powerful stuff. So.
Yeah. All right. Barb, do you have another question you ask when you're looking
like the typical weather?
Oh,
and this isn't a separate question, but you were talking about language and what money, maybe something about if it's in a foreign country, how and what people should do to change their money over. Do they want to wait till they get there, or change it before they go, or what?
Oh, good questions.
That's
Great.
a really good question.
Yeah. Cindy.
We were talking about, what the typical day likes and the size. I also think understanding like your own limitations and asking if that's possible. I know Barb was saying, do I have to do everything? And some of it might be interest level, but some of it also might be, accessibility. You may not be able to do those things. So I think this is really more of like being the other way around, not asking the question of the tour provider, but telling the tour provider of your limitations, right? So whether that's a food allergy or a mobility issue or whatever those issues are, being really honest about what you think you can or can't do, and making sure they can accommodate that ahead of time. Because sometimes it is super easy. And if you're running a smaller group, it isn't hard to just call ahead and make some special arrangements for somebody if we know ahead of time as a tour provider. But if you don't know and they just show up and then they tell you, like, as you're eating, I'm allergic to shellfish, and you went to a seafood restaurant, it's like, if I would have known that, I would have made arrangements to make sure we had something. I had no idea, right?
Yeah.
And it's just that prep stuff. So I think the reverse of, especially if you have something that matters to you or that is a health issue, to be able to ask the questions about how they can accommodate it.
Yetunde?
Who is running the tour would probably be, I mean, it depends on the type of tour. I mean, some tours you're like, oh, okay, it's not a big deal. It depends on the theme of the tour.
Yeah.
But, it's kind of, it's nice to be able to know the background. Let's say I'm going on a hiking trip, and you tell me that, yeah, I want to know who's taking me on this hike. I hiked up a volcano in an extinct, no, is it extinct? I don't know. A volcano in Bali. And, you know, I was happy to know that the girl who was leading us hikes that thing every day.
Yeah.
I looked at her like, okay, but, you know, it's like, I'm going to stick with you.
No, that is good to know. Excellent.
Yeah.
I think we have time for one more.
Yeah, let's do one more. We have
Okay,
time
one
ahead,
more
but we can
clue,
let's
yeah.
do it again. Mhm.
All right. What is another question you might ask? I'll start with Barb this time.
I am totally blank.
Oh,
I'm checking out all my answers to those questions.
oh okay. Yetenjie?
Well, I thought one of the ones that was interesting you put up is, you know, can I speak to a past client? It's not one that I get often.
Mhm.
But it's a legitimate question. If people enjoyed your tour, they probably wouldn't mind, you know, singing its praises. So yeah, you can definitely ask somebody, you know, is it possible to speak to a past client?
Yeah, especially on these, you know, with smaller tour providers. We are often friends and know those people who've gone with us before, and you can reach out to somebody and say, hey, you went last year, would you mind talking to a new person and letting them know? Because sometimes it's good to hear directly from a client, right, that actually went on the tour, not just the tour provider. Yeah.
Right. And sometimes it's because it is sometimes hard to find reviews on these more niche special interest, or like if it's a food, you know, experience or photography or hiking or whatever it might be. It looks amazing on the internet, but sometimes it's then really hard to even deep dive and find any reviews as such to know, like, did people have a good experience? Was there things I needed to know? Like, oh, I really should have been more experienced at walking and hiking or whatever
Yeah.
it might be.
Yeah, that's good. And
Cindy.
then I was going to say the last question, which we didn't talk about, which I think is super important to understand when you're signing up, is to understand the cancellation policy. So you know what the rules are around that, because there's no standard on that. I mean, I see everything from you can cancel 24 hours in advance, and that's, you know, some companies can do that. Some are more, you know, 60, 90 days, depending on what the situation is. So make sure you know what money is refundable at what point in time, what things are canceled, you know, they consider canceling. Like for me, if I cancel the tour, all your money comes back. But if you cancel the tour, then we have a different policy around that. And it's like that for most of the tour providers. So just knowing what the cancellation policy is with the company that you're working with is important.
Yeah, this is great. I think we covered at least 10 questions we would ask, and it was wonderful to hear from so many on both sides, trips we've taken, tours we've taken, how we vet each other or other tours that we take. So thanks everyone. This has been wonderful.
You're welcome.
Welcome.